All right, Rafe, you all set?
Oh yeah.
Everybody's hydrated, ready to go? Cool. All right, well, we'll go ahead and kick it off then. Thank you everybody for attending the Sofar In Session #3 here, a conversation with Mr. Tom Windish, facilitated by Mr. Rafe Offer. So really excited to have everyone here, and thank you fellas for joining for our third In Session event. People are going to be filtering in over the first few minutes here, so we're just going to go ahead and get the conversation going in just a moment. Just give a quick brief introduction of how it'll all work, and then we'll give some updates on how people can engage at the end of the conversation here for those who are joining us a bit later. Just know also we'll also have a recording of this conversation to share a little later next week as soon as we've got that all formatted and posted on the Sofar website, so you can go ahead and take a look then. But to introduce myself, my name is Billy Walsh. I'm the Artist Community Manager for Sofar Sounds. And like I said, I'm joined today by Mr. Rafe Offer, the co-founder of Sofar Sounds, and has been the face of Sofar Sounds for quite a long time, making a ton of relationships along the way through his journey with Sofar. And one of them is Tom Windish, who's joining us today. He's an exec at the Paradigm Agency and founder of the Windish Agency, working with some of the biggest names in music today. And we get a chance to listen to a conversation directly between him and Rafe Offer about artist development and what it's like to work in that area of the music business. So really excited to listen in. Just an FYI, we will have some time at the end for Q&A. For anybody who's interested in submitting questions, you'll see a little function at the bottom of your Zoom screen that says specifically Q&A. Please try to include your questions in the Q&A section for that function so that we can go through them. We'll be making sure to moderate and facilitate the questions ahead of time, so feel free to post at any point, and we'll be able to make sure that those are included at the end. We might not get to everybody's question, but we'll try and consolidate the questions if there's duplicates or similar content being asked so that everybody gets what they're itching to hear answered. And then also we'll make sure that the chat is available as well. People are free to post in the chat where you're from, why you're here, why you're excited. And please try and keep questions being submitted out of the chat, include those to just the Q&A function. But without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it along to Rafe to get us started. So Rafe, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Billy. Hello, everybody. Hello, people spilling in from all around the world. It's pretty freaking cool. So Tom, who I'm about to introduce, and I have known each other for a while now. And oh, he's just introduced. Who is that?
This is my cat. My cat, Isabel.
Isabel. That's my daughter's name. Oh my God. Well, so yeah, if you have a cat or a dog, let us know on the chat. Why not? Forget about music. This is actually a pet channel. So we're changing gears. Is that okay? I have 2 dogs, and I'm sure they get along really well with Isabel. Thanks. Tom.
My cats are very happy that I'm home. They chill out in my home office all day, every day with me. It's pretty cool.
Do they like music?
Yeah, I guess so.
Who knows? Who knows? So we're here to pick Tom's brain. He is now a good friend who I'm really feeling fortunate to have gotten to know and watch how he shows so much passion for music and the way he supports acts who are, many of them, as Billy said, household names, and many of them not, just people that he's passionate about. And I think for this particular hour, while we'll come out with some of those stories, I think a lot of this is focused on you. You are listening, who are musicians or who are involved in the music industry, and let's just dive in and pick Tom's brain and learn a little bit about what he's picked up over the years. So I know a lot of you are musicians or really involved with music. So we wanted to get right to the point right away and just start to understand, Tom, you know, what advice you give to independent musicians who are not managed, who don't have an agent, who are on their own and need to be scrappy and have a zillion other things to do. They may be doing a side job. They may focus on their music, but there's a limit on time, but they're doing it all on their own. So, and as one other piece of background, Tom's first company was called Bug Booking, which I love, which was basically named after the fact that you had to bug somebody for their attention to get booked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be my opening volley. Over to you, Tom.
So, I mean, one thing I would say is there's a million ways of doing all this stuff, and there's no one right or wrong way. I think it's about like picking up tips or nuggets that maybe you try some of the ones and see if any of them work. My like personal strategy with a lot of artist development is first and foremost, find artists that I really love, where I really love the music. Then like, how do I feel about the human beings? Do we kind of share a similar vision? It's okay if we don't, but it might not make sense for us to work together. For instance, like I'm not necessarily looking for a musician who wants to be a famous actor, or an Instagram model, and there's nothing wrong with a musician who wants to do those things, but I'm not as skilled or knowledgeable about working with artists like that. But so when I find an artist that I love and we sort of share the same vision and we decide to work together, one of my main strategies is brainstorm every single thing that I can think of and a lot of the other people that I work with can think of that would be a good thing for the artist to do. And then we start talking to the people involved with those things. Now that can mean a lot of different things. It could like mean I gotta tell these venue bookers that are just gonna love this artist. I need to bring them up right away and tell them about it. And if they hear about it from me and it's something they can tell I'm passionate about it, they'll listen. That doesn't mean they're all gonna drop everything they're doing and figure something out to do with it, with the artist, but it just gets it on their radar. And beyond like talking to venues about it, I'll also think of other artists that would like it, other managers, label people, festival people, tastemakers, to just get the music out there. And when I say music, I send just a couple songs, and just get it out there and just get a conversation going. Now, what I find, once that happens, there's generally two things that happen. Either like things are moving along for the artist and almost moving on beyond my control. It's like kind of taking on a life of its own, or like that could mean, and it's just getting added to tons of playlists and people just freaking love this song and fans are just like playing it a lot and telling all their friends about it. That happens, like then people do kind of start to drop everything and ring up and say, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? That's amazing when that happens. It doesn't really happen that often. The other path is no one really helps me. Not many people react very much to it. They might say, oh, that's great, thanks for sending. And they move on to the next thing in their inbox, or the next thing they need to listen to. And it doesn't come back up for a while. So a good example is this guy, J.S. Undara. When I found him, I really his music made me emotional. Like it gave me butterflies. I just really loved it. And I'm like, I need to help this guy build a career, and do this for a living. And I sent it
out of interest, Tom, how many J.S. Undara songs did you have to hear before you're like, I need to support this person?
Like one or two. I heard a bunch, but there were a few that I end up like playing over and over and over again. I mean, I'll end up like playing song 50, 100 times in a week, and until everyone who sits near me is like, you stop playing that song, or they're like, what is that? That's the better reaction.
Well, that's why it's good to have a cat, because the cat probably
they don't
too much.
ask me to turn it off. But yeah, with Jay, he didn't really need gigs as much as he just needed people in the industry to know who he was. He didn't have anything on Spotify either. So it was really kind of hard to find him. And I sent it to a lot of label people and a lot of managers, a lot, meaning about 100. And some people liked it, but none of them expressed any interest in working with him. So I started working with him. I made a list of 100 people I should send it to that week. I sent it to all those people, and nothing happened. Then I made a list of about 60 or 70 artists that I thought it'd be great if he opened for them. And I called each of those agents or managers and sent them the music and told them, how much I loved this guy and that they should really listen and take it seriously and all this stuff. And again, nothing happened. And time was passing, and it kind of felt like nothing was happening. And with him, I kind of got caught a lucky spark where I sent it. I kept following up with people that I really thought would appreciate it. And it's not about just kind of sending it to people once sometimes. It's like developing a relationship, and hey, here's another song by J.S. Andara 3 months later. I really love this song too. Or eventually J.S. Andara is coming to your town. It'd be great if you could go, or you could send someone to go just to see if you hear what I'm hearing. And it's
there's a real resilience and not giving up, and a word we mentioned before, scrappy. You're just out there as you're recommending that the musicians, they don't have you on their side. It's just like reminding, hey, here's one song, and then here's a reminder, here's a second song, just kind of going at them whatever the right amount of times before you go from getting them excited to getting them annoyed. That must be a tricky balance. But I also would observe go for it.
You don't want to annoy people. You don't want to hit them over the head so much. And I think you want to go back with another element that's added to the story. Whether it's here's a new song, or I just want to let you know, in his hometown, he sold 500 tickets last week, and we're really excited about it. And here's a link to a 20-second clip that someone shot from an iPhone of the audience reaction to that show. Just little crumbs.
Well, I love that. Just to say, I hear probably not nearly as many from musicians as you do, but I do get at least a couple a day, if not more, about, hey, I'd love to play Sofar. And I try to listen to the vast majority, but I also notice that many of them who it just might not be sparking with me at the moment, they don't come back. Right. And I love that idea of just finding a sensitive way. And then there are a few that come back way too much, and it does get a little bit much. So you give me a sense of what that balance is, and also how difficult it is. And do you really have to learn from targeting different people, I would say, because you're Tom Windish. You have helped build the careers of Alt J and Lord and Billie Eilish and Aurora and many others. And it's if you're calling them and they're ignoring you, and you said you sent it to 100 people, that A says how difficult it is, but B, it says that you really have to continue to be resilient and strategic.
Yeah. I mean, Jay is a little different than those artists you mentioned. Those artists, they had record deals, and they had managers when I signed them.
Mm.
So there were other people out there also telling people in the world about the artist. With Jay, that really wasn't happening, other than a venue owner in Minneapolis.
Anybody out there
So
in Minneapolis? All right, well done.
yeah. So I'm trying to think.
Yeah, so how did you break through with him then? What was it that helped?
With him, one of the things that really stuck, I think, was, I mean, his music. I think really is great. Another thing I really drove home to people and was, it's one guy. You can pay him however much you want. He can play as long as you want, or as little as you want. Just put him on the show. And while I was turned down by like 75 different bands, eventually people started saying yes. And that helped. He did dates with John Butler Trio. He did dates with First Aid Kit. He's ended up touring with a lot of different people, which helps. But one of the biggest reason it helps is that I can then go back to the label people and the managers and say, hey, here's another thing, that not only is there, here's another new song, and he sold a bunch of tickets in his hometown, and he's come to your town now like 2 or 3 times, and you still haven't sent someone. But he's opening for this artist at this venue in town, and like this, and it doesn't happen overnight, but this, like, over the course of like a year or something, they start to get used to, like, oh, there's something going on here, and it's not just Tom telling me about it, but he's actually out there touring. I like this music. Someone from the office went and said he was really good, and then eventually he got a record deal and a manager. Now, so then there's the other artists, like, where they've already got all that, and then my strategy is totally different, or not totally, but I'm not trying to find a label or manager. I'm just trying to set up the best shows possible, and what that means is different for every artist. What country are they from? How many shows do they want to do in the territories that I book, the U.S. and Canada primarily, and Mexico and South America. I sometimes book in Asia and Australia too, but really it's like figuring out where are their fans, and what's the touring strategy. And I will have opinions about what the touring strategy should be, but they have other circumstances that are dictating, also like influencing what the strategy should be. Like, how many people are in the band? How much money do we have in the bank where we could afford to spend it on touring? If you spend it on touring, is that taking it away from other things that we need to spend money on? Or are we making enough money on touring where it's not creating a deficit in some way? It's not costing us money.
Yeah.
But let's say it's Billie Eilish, which is a very unique situation, because she was sort of a rocket ship since I'd say the early days, of like
when and how did you first meet her? I think everyone would be interested. Oh, I'm interested.
It was like 5 years ago or something.
And how did you discover her music?
Her A&R guy sent me Ocean Eyes and said, I think you're gonna like this. I really like what you've done with Lord and where she's played and who she's played with, and let me know if you want to talk. And I heard Ocean Eyes and I loved it. So our strategy was underplay, play small places. There were a few reasons for that. She had never played like small places or big places, and most artists, like, they'll play the smallest venue and then the one that's like twice as big as that, and the one that's twice as big as that, and they sort of like go and move up in venue sizes as their career progresses. It's just developing, you know.
Mm.
And we wanted her to do that, just like most bands have done. And we wanted her to play at all these iconic places of various sizes, whether it was the club that fits 200 people or the club that fits 2,000 people. But it was very intentional of like, she needs to play these size venues. She shouldn't skip those and jump to the next one, even if we thought, yeah, she could.
Just to
The
get
reasons,
experience?
I guess,
Or-
yeah, it's a combination of, yeah, just playing shows in those places. But I think shows are great when in those places, and that's a good experience for the artist to go through, and it's a great experience for the fan. Seeing like Billy in an iconic 300 capacity club when maybe 700 people would have wanted to go,
Mm.
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, she could have played the 700 place, but that energy you get in the 300 place is pretty special. And why not do it now? You know, you're never going to go back to that size place, or very rarely. So why not do it before you jump up to a bigger thing?
And Tom, you called me very early on in her career and said, "Why doesn't Billy play Sofar?" And which she did. So why did you suggest to us that she should play Sofar in LA?
That was so early that we just wanted her to get to play a show where no music industry would go. There was quite a strong buzz, you know, from especially in the industry, but also with fans. And we just wanted her to like play where it was like no pressure. Just get up there and do your thing.
Just beat.
Yeah, that was very intentional. And then she played some shows outside of Los Angeles before she played LA.
So Tom, let's move on just to when people should reach out to someone like yourself. You know, you're an indie musician, you're working to develop your sound. How and when is it time to find an agent? And also, how do they reach out to you and people like you? Clearly, a lot of people would want you to represent them. And I'm just wondering the best way to do that to you.
I mean, the way you reach out is just emailing. You know, my email is very tom.windish@paradigmagency.com. Super easy. But yeah, I don't think reaching out too early is a very good idea. Agents in general want to book artists where things are happening. They don't want to be responsible for getting things from 0 to 5, if that makes sense. That JS Andara experience was unique. You know, all those other bands, like there was something going on. There were some people helping. They had some fans. And I think there's a lot you can do as a new musician or a young musician to just get things going. Even if agents don't want to be your agent and managers don't want to manage you and labels don't want to sign you and the iconic venues don't want to book you, there's still other things you can do. For instance, you could play shows in people's houses. You know, you could play shows at like parties. We represent an artist named Kuko who was playing shows in his backyard for about 200 people for a long time before any agencies had ever heard of him. And he was like raising money, you know, making money doing it, and I think donating most of it to charitable causes. And he wasn't like writing to agents saying, "Why don't you be my agent?" And then when none of them got back to him, sitting around and waiting until he could write to the agents again. He was making stuff happen. And I think artists, the main thing is to practice the craft of songwriting, it's all about a song. I would say most of the time, even more so than a live performance. If you're talking about like what will bring fame, it's all about the song. Um, there are few bands that like are famous because they have the greatest live show ever. You know, the famous artists have like a hit song. Um, and I'm not even saying that you need to sit around and practice like writing a hit. I think you just need to practice writing songs that are true to yourself, and hopefully that connect with people, that people like to listen to. Um, when they do enjoy it, they're going to play it more and they're going to share it with their friends. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff. I think that's a lot more important than getting an agent or going on tour.
And what about social media? The world is obsessed by it these days. Obviously, it's almost like a part-time job if you're a musician and trying to spread word about you and your music. How does that play into that? What do agents look for? What do labels look for today? What piece of the puzzle is that?
I mean, you definitely need to do social media. Again, like everything I'm saying, there's always examples of things happening without this or that. And I think the way I approach things is quite a lot different than most of the music industry does. I think most of the music industry is really paying attention to social media and the amount of streams that are happening. I think a lot of labels wouldn't sign most artists until there's evidence of like people like this. You know, they're streaming it like crazy. They're listening to the song from start to finish, and they're playing it again. And more people are playing it this week than last, and all that kind of stuff. I don't really look at that as much. I look at it. I do look at it, but for me personally, it's not really what influences. It's not the main factor of who I choose to work with. It's really the music, and if it's something I love. And especially if there's like a team of people or another person that I really like, you know, a manager, a label person or something, then I'll work on it with them.
I remember we were both listening to Didiri. Don't know exactly where Didiri was, Australian act. And you also had mentioned you got emotional a bit about J.S. Andara. I think you might have shed a tear listening to his music in East London. Tell us about that moment, how that felt, and why you wanted to go rep him.
Yeah, I really love Didiri too. Yeah, I mean, I the thing, like I got goosebumps at that show. It struck nerves, you know, in ways that nothing else in life does, you know. And when I find artists that do that for me, you know, I want to help them. And I think I'm not going to be the only one, you know. If it could have that impact on me, I'm not going to be the only one.
Can you think of another moment in your career where you got goosebumps like that from an act?
I mean, like every artist I represent, like it's happened, or it happens sometimes every time we go see them. I feel like one of the luckiest people in the world, where I get to choose who I work with. I only work with artists I love. I go see them, and they make me feel great. It especially makes me feel great when I go see them and there's tons of people enjoying it.
Yeah. I'm going to ask for audience participation just for a second while we move. I'd like you guys on chat, if you're up for it, to write down an act that's giving you goosebumps. It's just giving you that feeling that Tom just described at some point in your career, either online or in real life, doesn't matter, but even better if it's real life. I'm glad we're recording this. Oh, wow.
That's great.
Local natives, Brook and the Bluff. Wow. Kate Tempest, I had her play my house or perform. That gave me goosebumps as well. 3 Kate Tempest, Bar Brothers. Oh my God, Royal Blood. Hosier. Elton John, Lucky.
So many great artists.
This group has good taste.
Yeah.
Not Corby.
Yeah.
I think there's a
I
lot of
love
love
being,
for the new Fiona Apple. Yep. Yeah, this is actually just market research for Tom, hearing
yeah.
from you guys.
I love a lot of these artists too.
Yeah, I remember texting you when I was hearing Aurora, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, I represent her." Like, oh, she's
He's amazing.
this is a hell of a good list. I'm gonna have enough to do for the next few weeks. Thank you, everybody. Britney Spears. All right, badass. So yeah, that's really helpful. So
And you know, I'm also looking for artists more than great business people. You know,
mm,
no offense to like being good at business, but this is art. Um, yeah, I mean, I also actually appreciate like actual art, you know, visual art,
mm.
and go to lots of museums and everything. And I think a song or album by Aurora or a performance by Aurora is similar to going and seeing a great painting at a museum. I mean, obviously different in many ways, but there's something incredibly unique about it, and it can give you feelings, all sorts of different feelings in ways that nothing else can.
Amen. Amen to that. I saw Bernhoff come up a couple times. I've seen him live, and he even played Sofar early. He was incredible. Tom, is there anyone who you were just scratching your head like, I wish they were incredible, but it did not catch fire? That it's just too bad.
Lots and lots and lots of artists. You know, I sign many artists that I think are phenomenal, and nothing happens, or something happens for a moment or some moments, and but it doesn't like carry through. You know, I've had artists. It's really not all about. I think this is a misconception. Art. I think some artists think if I get an agent, I'm going to get opening slots on tours, and I'm going to get festival slots, and then I'm going to be big. I've had artists get 10 opening slots on tours, and most of the people here haven't heard of them. It just didn't like
Mm,
stick, you
mm,
know. And then most of the most of my famous clients have never really opened for anybody.
hmm,
Um, you know, Lord's never opened for anyone. The XX really hasn't. And I guess I'm speaking more on behalf of America. I'm not exactly sure what in the UK and
yeah,
some other places,
yeah.
but you know, in general.
Well,
And I think that's the case for a lot of the most famous artists. Like, it's not. Success is really not about like one business thing happening and then the dam breaks and
mm,
everyone follows. Like those are incredible artists.
mm.
um, and people love them, and it's not because they got to play to so and so's fans that it happened. Like so and so's fans found them too.
Or it wasn't because Billie Eilish was good at social media. It's back
Right,
to the
right.
songs. So,
All about.
yeah, no, a number of people are interested in expansion. So let's say you are well known, you're getting there in your city of Chicago. And what advice would you give to expanding beyond that city, and sub question, beyond your own country? Yeah, give it up for Chicago. That's where I'm from. And that's where Tom's from.
Yeah,
Woohoo!
Chicago. Go Chicago. Um, I mean, a few other pieces of advice that I think are helpful are be friendly with other people in the industry and in the scene, in the town, in the place that you're from. Um, that doesn't mean that you have to like kiss everybody's ass. Um, but like make a point of figuring out who's who, and as you learn about those people, and that could mean like a club promoter or a publicist or just other people in the music industry in that town. Learn about them, and some of them are going to like do things that you respect, and you should gravitate towards some of them. It doesn't. The reason is that they can help. Whether you have like a business relationship or not, more people that are kind of connected in the music industry that like who you are, and are on your good side, like that never hurts. Um, but there's ways of doing it. There's genuine ways of doing it, and then there's ways of being annoying about it. And I would try and do it in the genuine way, Um, uh, and I think that's by like really, it's so much easier now to research and learn about things. There's like interviews with probably most of the people in the music industry in every city in the world. And if it's not an article in like some high profile news outlet, like there's something out there, a blog and something, a podcast. I like soak this stuff up. I'm constantly reading and listening and talking to people about what's going on, and like learning it and asking questions or reading stuff and trying to just gather information. And when I read an interview with someone and I really like what they've had to say, hey, bring him in. And I really like what they have to say, I'll send them a note. Look, I got a special guest.
Oh, you've
This
just
is my
staged yourself. Who is that?
This is Wilder Windish.
Okay, that is like the best name ever. Hey Wilder, what's up? Is he playing a guitar or yet?
He's got a drum set and a guitar. Yeah. What's going on, Wilder? Yeah, he was born in London. His middle name is London.
Wilder. Oh, that's even cuter. Oh, and now he's.
Sorry.
Now, this is this is a lovely thing about what's going on in the world. We are really getting to know people in a slightly deeper way. I've just a very quick story. I was on a Zoom call not long ago with a lot of people, and somebody was well dressed, but accidentally arched the computer in a way that he was going to get his coffee, and revealed to 200 people he was only in his underwear with like a suit and tie up above. So yeah, we got to know him in a way that was slightly more intimate than we wanted, but we are getting to know each other. So good to meet Wilder.
But yeah, I'll read articles and listen to podcasts, and I'll even send notes to the people and say like, oh, that was really awesome, or I really like this one point. I have another good, I guess, story. When I started the Windish Agency, which is like 20 years ago or something now, I was living in Chicago, and I didn't really travel much. I really didn't know many people in the music industry. And a few months after I started the company, which seems like crazy timing, I made a list of 100 people I wanted to meet in London, and I flew to London and stayed in an apartment, a few different apartments actually, and I went and met those 100 people.
Wow.
I reached out to all of them and said, hey, I'd just like to meet you. I love what you're doing, and I don't know what's going to come out of it, but I'd appreciate it if we could just have a cup of coffee. And one of the people I reached out to was a young guy. I think he was still a teenager, and he was putting out 7-inches, and I loved these 7-inches. The label was called Young Turks. We had coffee, great guy. And at the end of the meeting, he handed me a CDR of a band. He said, this is a band I'm going to manage. It's the first band I'm ever going to manage. I really love them. Let me know what you think. And it was the XX.
Wow.
And I played it that night, and we met again for coffee a week later and decided to work together. So I've had a very outgoing strategy. It's not even my personality, because I am more of an introvert than outgoing. It's actually like kind of a task for me to be outgoing.
Yeah, but
And I do a lot better in like a one-on-one.
Yeah, what you're also saying to us is there's no substitution for hard work. You want to expand from one city to another, one country to another. The internet provides plenty of resource. There's really no substitution for networking, getting out there. 100 people is incredible. But whether it's 100 or 10, what is your list? How do you target them? Most people will be up for a coffee, armed with at least one good song and passion. It sounds like that's a core of an expansion strategy. I'm gonna go to a next question. We're sort of easing into the Q&A part. We've only got about 20 minutes left, and there are a lot of questions. Ryan, I'm going to read your question, has asked, what can artists do to restore or maintain the supply and demand curve when all the content right now seems to be offered for free? So that's the first, and then he has a follow-up. We'll see where we go with that.
To maintain the supply and demand curve. I mean, are we talking coronavirus times or pre or post?
Let's see where the follow-up was, because I didn't talk to him. What can artists do to continue to see revenue after the donation model dries up and hold a captive audience beyond feed scrollers? Is that more helpful?
I mean, I've been doing a lot of research about paid live streams. That's something where if 2 years ago someone came to me and said, "Hey, I want to do paid live streams with all of your artists," I probably would have said, "You're nuts. It's all about the live performance, and nothing can replace it." And now I'm talking to a lot of different people who are doing them, artists, managers, platforms, and for some of my clients, I'm encouraging them to research it, think about it, because I think it's going to become a lot more normalized and less stigmatized than it had been. So that's one thing. I've seen and heard about artists doing special merch drops. I've heard about the tip jars. There are more brand partnerships than there used to be for smaller level artists. But also, I mean, it's very hard. In terms of paid streams, I heard about Angel Olsen doing one a couple weeks ago where she raised $45,000. That's a good amount of money, and I believe she donated most of it to charity. But she didn't even talk about how she was going to be donating it on any of her socials or anything. That's just what she decided to do. I could see a lot more artists doing it and being creative about it. An artist could play their first album from start to finish for one paid live stream, and then the second album, and then a show of just covers and all sorts of stuff. A VIP Q&A, acoustic performance. There are those things. I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody. And I'm not saying everyone's going to make the same amount that they made before. I think a lot of my clients make a lot of their money from touring. But it seems like there are some things that can be done. I mean, I guess this is also a time where I encourage a focus on songwriting. And I'm not as familiar with the songwriting process, how it works. I suppose it's different for everybody. But I've listened to some podcasts like Song Exploder where you learn how a song was made. And I think that's interesting stuff for a songwriter to hear about. Or maybe a song, an artist, they could collaborate on a song with someone else. And maybe they learn something about maybe that influences their songwriting for forever or for years to come or for another song that they do. Yeah, I keep seeing
Yeah.
questions about which podcasts I like. There's one for touring that I really like called Promoter 101. They interview promoters and agents and lots and lots of my peers. I was on there. I really like that one. Um, uh, there's a bunch of other ones. I read. I subscribe to these like newsletters that compile links to articles. One of them is called Music Redef, REDEF, and every day I get a link or I get an email with links to like 10 or 15 articles, and I'll end up reading 1 to 5 of them, and I'll learn a lot. There's been a lot of articles about podcasting, and I'm sorry, live streaming.
Awesome. So, Tom, we have about a little less than 15 minutes. I'm going to keep going with some questions without getting into things regarding COVID-19 because, no one has a clue where this is headed. But if there's some general advice that's gently related to that, how can artists think about diversifying their income streams to protect them from being in a situation where they're only reliant on one sector like touring for their financial stability?
How can they think about diversifying their income streams?
Yeah, that's basically the
I
question.
mean, I think I kind of talked about that. Like,
Yeah, a
I'm
little
hearing
bit.
merch things, paid live streaming. I think it's very hard. I don't think there's like a magic bullet out there. I think it's very, very hard. Another podcast and person I listen to a lot and read a lot. Her name is Cherry Who, spelled Cherie and then HU.
Yeah,
And
I met her. She's very solid.
Yeah, she has a podcast called Music Made Me Do It. She's really, really interesting and goes deep into the industry and everything that's happening. I think she has a Patreon page, and you can like go even deeper. You learn a lot by even not going past the paywall. She puts out so much stuff.
Yeah, and I would encourage the people listening, if you have ideas on helping each other, just throw some things on the chat right now. Tom has given a few things, and you must all be thinking about this. I mean, we all are. So if anyone has any fresh ideas on revenue streams for yourselves, please pop them down now or hit each other up because I think we're all in this together.
Licensing is another one I want to put up there.
Yeah, so there's a follow-up question on outreach. You talked a lot about 100 meetings and in London and targeting people. So I wonder if there are any tools out there, Tom, that artists can use to do outreach, since bands only have so much time to do outreach. And then sort of slash, how personalized does the outreach have to be? I.e., is it you researching that one person in Cleveland and having read their article or listened to their podcast so you have some information, or can it be a little more automated? And are there any tools in that area that you know of?
I mean, I think what's more important than outreach is, again, like songwriting and relationships with musicians that you like, relationships with other bands. I think if you have limited amount of time, and everybody does, the place I would spend most time is on those things, and then playing shows. But like, if you can't get shows at the clubs because they're just not booking you and they're not returning your emails, like just figure out how to create your own shows. Like I said, whether it's playing in the backyard or at some college party or some, but it should be organic and the people that you want to have coffee with that you think are going to give you a break, they're all going to like find you and reach out to you if you do that other stuff that I'm talking about really well. You create a buzz based on the songs and the shows and like a culture around you. And a great way to build that culture is, in addition to just those things and just songwriting and playing cool parties, is by relationships with other bands, because they can sort of help build it too. You know, they'll be being raised up from it as well. Think about a place like Glasgow. There's an amazing music scene there. And I'm sure like the bands there are reaching out to people in the industry and saying, hey, can we have coffee? You know, what advice do you have? But I feel like most of those people would be like, write great songs, get a buzz going, go play great shows, you know? Can't get great shows, like we'll figure out how to do it, you know? And I mean, I see people play in backyards of houses in LA like once a month, and I'm sure that's happening multiple times a night in LA.
And Tom, that's a great link to the next question, which is around whether, obviously, when things are a little more normal, it makes sense to move to industry cities, whether that gives you a leg up. I saw in the stream, the Brook and the Bluff, a band from Alabama, they moved to Nashville. There are a gazillion examples of bands moving to those hub cities like LA or London, or New York. I wonder if you would recommend that bands seriously consider being in quote unquote industry cities, because so many people are there.
Yeah. I mean, you can make like a long list of pros and cons for being in like a big city or being in a small place. You know, if you're in a smaller place, you're a bigger fish in a smaller pond. You know, if you're in a big city, you're a small fish and there's a million other small fish. Something I did like in my life was I would move to like various cities, not like just pick up and move my entire life, but move for 2 months. Like when I went to London for 6 weeks and met 100 people. And that was interesting. Maybe you do it longer, maybe you do it shorter. Like I found when I was in those places for longer periods of time, it was easier to meet with people because I had a much wider window of when I was available, you know, and that was helpful. And I just had more time to meet people in kind of a more organic way. You know, I'd go out to shows every night. And I also like kind of tried to soak up the culture of the city beyond music too, by going to museums and checking out restaurants and just like hanging out with people and going to parties and stuff. And I really believe in interesting things happening when you're also not as intentional about it, but like you're just out there living life and seeing what happens, you know, and who knows who you're going to meet and what type of tip they're going to have. Like the reason I heard about Lord was that a friend of mine was like, oh, you should go to this party in New York. It was like one of the times I was living in New York for a couple months. And this woman puts on this party and she always books like a couple cool bands that are new. And she invites a really good group of people. So I went and I met her and she's like a fellow music lover. And she was like, oh, you should check out Lord. You know, she's got this song on SoundCloud. This was very early. And I went home and checked it out and I loved it, you know.
What song was that?
Royals.
Yeah, not a surprise.
And then further to that story, so I went I sent an email to the manager, and it turned out that and I was like, oh, I love this song. I'd love to talk to you about it. And it turned out that he shared an office with another manager that I had worked with for years. And when Laura's manager received the email from me, he just kind of like talked across the offices and said, "Hey, who's this Windish guy?" You know, and he's like, "Tom Windish, he's your guy." And that was all it took, you know, like
Wow.
because I had a great relationship with this other guy, and I always like treated him right and did the job I was supposed to do. He was like, "Yeah, I give it, that's who it should be."
Like so many
So it's
things
a
in life,
combination.
it's about how you treat people. You know.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
We're going to wrap up very soon. I want to know who you're excited about right now, Tom. Who you're listening to, or who's on your mind?
I just heard an artist last week called Otta, Otta, that I'm really digging. She's from London. I really like Big Pig, also from London. I really like Jordan McCampa, also from London.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's great.
And who else? Sam Tompkins. God, I mean, Rina Sawayama.
Don't know her. Where's she from?
She's also from London. She just put out a new record and it's doing really, really well.
Yeah.
I love this artist named Jayla from New York City. She's amazing. There was just a big article about her in the New York Times.
London's getting a lot of love in this list.
Yeah, a lot of London. Yeah. I started a label probably 6 months ago, and I put out a single by an artist named Kunzite a couple weeks ago, and I love them. They're on, you know, all this stuff is on Spotify.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah, tons of stuff. I mean, I don't know. I love listening to music, and I'm getting psyched about stuff constantly.
Don't we all? Don't we all? So we're wrapping up. I'm going to introduce it back to Billy to finish up, but just this has been incredible. I've learned a lot. I've enjoyed chatting and hearing all your experience. Who knew that we would meet Wilder and Isabel? And so, along with your deep experience, those were highlights. And from all of you listening, my God, it was great to see your chat, hear your music recommendations, and I hope that, and I'll turn over to Billy. I hope that you guys took away some things that you can use. Really excited to hear your feedback. And I'm going to mute it because it's now nearly the time that they shout for the NHS, the medical workers here. So there's going to be a lot of whooping coming from London in about 1 second.
Wow.
Or maybe that's just for us. Billy,
it's a good vibe. Good vibe regardless.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, Tom and Rafe, thank you so much for joining us today. Really great to sit back and listen to you two converse about anything and everything, and meet the baby and the kitties, always good as well. So thank you again for making the time, Tom and Rafe, for taking the time to step in and do the interview. Really fantastic. And I wanted to take a second to apologize to everybody out there who submitted a question that we weren't able to get to. I know time is tight in this hour-long conversation we have, and so I just appreciate everybody so much taking the time to submit questions, to attend, to be engaged and listening in. That's the whole point of what we're trying to do here, is provide a little bit more of that context. And I hope that even if we didn't get to your specific question, we were able to cover a lot of ground here on this conversation in a number of different buckets. So everybody that attended, thank you so much. We will be following up with an email, including the recording of this session, as well as an invite for the next session. We're actually bringing in an instructor from the Berklee School of Music next week to cover a songwriting workshop. So anybody out there that's working on their songwriting skills, please feel free to attend. We still have plenty of space available. But until next time, thank you. This has been Sofar in Session. My name's Billy. Thanks again to Tom and Rafe, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day.
I've gone outside to end it with the cheers of London for the healthcare workers. Stay safe. it's pretty incredible.
It's beautiful stuff. I
Yeah,
love it.
stay safe, everyone. Love to you all. It's great to meet you. Be well.
Take care, everybody. Thanks again. Be well.